Welcome to Decode Your Burnout, the podcast where we crack the code on burnout based on three primary factors: your programming, environment, and personality. We also feature experts who debunk the myths about what it takes to be successful in their industry and spin those tips to fit the workplace so you can optimize the way you work. I'm your host, Dr. Sharon Grossman, a psychologist turned coach, author, and burnout expert. If you're burned out and want to go from exhausted to extraordinary, book a free breakthrough session with me by going to bookachatwithsharon.com. And if you want to see how you're doing and what to focus on next, download the Burnout Checklist. You'll find the link in the show notes or go to bit.ly/checkyourburnout. Now let's get started.
They say, like stress is good because it helps release cortisol. It helps you take action, they say, right? There's that camp of people.
Sure.
But there is such a thing as too much stress, okay? And that's what ultimately burnout comes down to, is when you just have so much stress. And the thing is, this is a funny thing about it. Well, maybe it's not funny, or maybe it's irony. I don't know. But point being that for me in my life, stress was not in my vocabulary. I was just no, because for me, I was doing things that I enjoyed doing. Right? Maybe this is someone else listening. For me, I was doing things that I enjoyed doing. So, and also there are so many things that I love doing that there were things I was saying no to doing because I was okay, let me prioritize the things that, I'm prioritizing these other things and say no to these other things, even though I also want to do them too, but let me just order them and prioritize them, right? Even since high school. And so, but ultimately what that meant was that at any point in given time, I enjoyed being in the choir. I enjoyed doing, the Red Cross Club. I enjoyed also, and so at any point in time in my life, I've always done stuff that I want to do. I've always done stuff that I like doing. So I always got some sort of enjoyment from the things that I was doing. And so it wasn't that I hated the hats that I was wearing. I didn't hate hats and I didn't it wasn't oh my God, I hate being a board member. Oh my God, the worst. No, it was, I enjoyed it. And so for me, stress wasn't in my vocabulary because it was sort of well, no, I love what I'm doing. I'm not stressed. And so that's what I would say to myself. And, I believed that for a long time, actually. I believed that for a really, really long time. Now I learned about the science of it all, which probably Dr. Grossman has probably mentioned in this podcast. But essentially, for me, it was very much the buildup comes up when perhaps mentally you are, and I've always been an optimistic person, right? And so perhaps mentally you are the kids are happy, or the spouse is great, or the businesses, the clients are good. The business is not where I want it to be, but it's okay. And they need me at the school or whatever it may be that you're saying to yourself. And that's great. Awesome. Right. But there's a part of your body, right? Your mind may be saying one thing, but if you were to listen to your body is saying something different. And then that is what, those things that it's saying, that's what builds up to then be burnout. Because mentally, yes, maybe you might actually like your work. You might actually like the work that you're doing. In some cases, people burn out because they actually hate their work, but they're still doing it. But you may actually like the work that you're doing. Right? I love strategy. I love problem solving. You may actually love all the stuff that you're doing. You may love your kids. You may love your family, right? But it's still stressful, right? And so what ends up happening is that a lot of people, it's there's a point of it where it's okay, you like it, but your mind is saying yes, but your body is quietly saying to you, could you just slow down a little bit? Just take a break. Just a break.
I like that you brought this up because I think it's one of the myths around stress and burnout is that people burn out only because they're so miserable, right? And I think you're helping us remember that sometimes it's just too much of a good thing, right? And anytime it's too much of something, whether it's good or bad, we go beyond the threshold. And that's essentially what is absolutely true about stress. And you also bring up the whole idea of the mind versus the body, which is another thing that I think we need to consider. Our brain's going to constantly tell us all the things that we should be doing. And we feel guilty a lot when we don't do those things. And it feels like the list of demands just never ends, right? It's like you've never kind of reached the end of the list and be like, oh, okay, now I can relax. There's always more things. And so I like this idea of reminding the listeners to tune into their body when their mind is telling them all the things that they should be doing, and really paying attention to how that feels. Does it feel like it's the right thing for you to do right now? Do you have the energy to do that? And if you do that right now, what, as you say, are you saying no to instead? Right? Like if we're going to stay up late and do all these things on the computer, does that mean that we get less sleep? And it's maybe okay to do it once in a while, but if you're doing that every single night, you're not getting enough sleep on a regular basis. That's going to catch up with you. So there's all kinds of things to really take into consideration. Now, I want to come back to something that you said earlier, which I think is really important and comes back to that whole mind-body thing. You said you physically felt like there were boxes on your shoulder, which is a beautiful manifestation of that stress and the overwhelm that we feel when we're in that burnout zone, and that you thought about, let me just remove one of these boxes. So I love the metaphor. And you also said it's easier said than done, but can you share maybe how, if people are going to relate to that, how have you been able to remove the boxes? What does that look like?
Yes. And I'll say this to say, I'll repeat something else as well too, is that this has happened because I just like to do things, right? And so, it's like that was that first moment in my life in when I was 17, where I said, oh my God, these boxes. And then it happened again, actually, sometime during university, and it happened again during entrepreneurship. But ultimately speaking, the way that I remove the box, and it comes down to the priorities of things, right? And so what I really narrowed down in, the same thing I do actually in business as well, is looking at prioritizing things to only 3 goals. And so in business, the way it applies itself, I say 3 and 3. So 3 goals in a 3-month time frame, and quarters for those who may be thinking about it. But even I did a presentation for the National Small Business Expo in February. It was February. I said, great, March, April, May. Then that's be a quarter, next 3 months. But it's actually 3 goals in 3 months. And so looking at, all of your life and business, it's not 3 goals in your home life, 3 goals in your business, and 3 goals. It's literally looking at your entire, just everything that's on your plate, everything that's on your to-do list, everything that all the hats that you wear, maximum of 3 goals that you're prioritizing within that time frame, right? And the thing about it, there may be some high-achieving, ambitious person that says, but I want to get a lot done. I have a lot to get done. This is just not, what do you mean 3? Excuse you. I remember one of my clients, for example, I had to go through this exercise a few years ago. And, she was like, what are your 3, what do you want to get done in the next 3 months, right? And she started listing out stuff, a whole bunch of stuff. And I said, okay, that's enough. She's like, oh, no, there's more. She flipped the page. There's a whole nother 2 side pages of things she wanted to get done. And I said, in the next 3 months? And she said, yes, of course. And I was like, okay. So we ended up having a whole discussion about this. But that's what's happening to a lot of people, where you want to get a lot done, right? And part of it is, I get back to this whole concept of your relationship with time. So for me, time and I are best friends. That's how I call it. Time and I are best friends. We are cool buddies. We treat each other with respect. It's really great. It's awesome. We have a great relationship. But the thing about it is that most people don't have a great relationship with time. So what happens is that, especially for, the high achievers out there in life, where you're like, oh my God, before I die, I want to get these 20 million things done. And there's also this level of, impatience that comes into play, where you're kind of like, well, I may not be here in 20 years. I may not be here tomorrow. So I need to get all this done today, right? There's a subconscious, sometimes it's more so a subconscious thing that's happening, where part of you're trying to rush to get stuff done because you think that you won't have time to get it done. Or you're trying to rush everything, you're trying to stay up late to cram everything in because you think you can't, not do it. And it's in the simplest form. I think of it as, that person who they see an email pop up at 9:30 p.m. They could respond tomorrow morning, but instead they said, you know what? If I don't respond now, something may happen. I might lose my job. So they respond at 9:30 p.m. as they were trying to go to bed. When they could have just gone to bed, go to sleep, wake up, shower, get dressed, head to the office, go to their desk, read a book, and then respond to the email. The world's not going to end, right? Unless you're working for, defense office or something like that. But other than that, right, your chances are, if you wait to send the email the next morning, your world will not end. right? And so that's like the simplest version and simplest way that presents itself in people's lives. But ultimately, when you think about the bigger picture of your goals, looking at what is that you want to prioritize, right? Like, what do you want to, like for people in the beginning of the year, January, February, March, you may have said, I want to get healthier, right? It's not to say that, if let's say you want to get healthier, work on your marriage or relationship, and close on a new house for your family, right? Notice I didn't say anything about business in that. That's not to say that you're not going to be working on your business. That's not to say that, your business is all of a sudden not important to you and you're a terrible business owner, right? We're not saying that. What we're saying is that for you, January, February, March, perhaps you have your business in a place where you're just going to keep it like that comfortably. You feel good about it. You're going to pick it back up in April, perhaps. But right now, you want to work on your marriage, your health, and getting yourself a house, right? Your environment around you, so that you can be better prepared for your business in April, May, June, whatever it may be. But essentially, what ends up happening to a lot of people is that they try to put everything all in one. And you need to realize that what I like to tell people is that you are the center, you're the core of your business in life, right? You are the core. And so I don't care if you're a woman or a man, you are the core of your life and business. Everything, the part of you in your business is centered around you. Everything part of you in your life is centered around you. And if you don't take care of yourself, you will not be able to show up. And if you do not show up, no one else will. Like, honestly, no one else will. And so if you need to ensure you're taking care of that center core person, that center core sort of mind and body and soul, so that you can disseminate that energy, those tentacles. I know that is a podcast, all the hand motions. You can disseminate all these things into, all the other areas of your life, right? Maybe you're a PTA person, you're a volunteer, you're a community member, you help out with the running club in your community, you help out, perhaps you have, 2 businesses, and maybe you also have a day job. You're a mother, a father, a caregiver, maybe to your, mid 80s, a father or mother, perhaps whatever it may be, all the hats that you're wearing, they all revolve around you being able to take care of yourself so you can show up, right? You may have heard the term, the phrase, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? And so when I do a workshop, I'll give like a visual of like, this is the cup, right? And you keep on pouring from the cup, it's filled with water. It's great, right? It's filled with water, it's an amazing cup. People come into the cup like, hey, can I get some water? You pour the water. Okay, cool. Hey, can I get some water? Okay, sure. You keep pouring the water out. But what happens to a lot of people, and what ultimately happens, what burnout is when you keep pouring out, but not pouring in. So you keep pouring out, but you're not pouring in. And so by continuing to pour out, you're going to end up being at a point where you look into that cup and it's going to be an empty cup. And then what are you doing?
Yes, it's a good reminder for people.